So, I've got to ask, what's with all the swagger in your lyrics? It feels like Vex isn't just a name, it's a whole philosophy.
It totally is. Vex is about showing up with attitude, not just to flex, but to question everything around me. I want it to be a problem for anyone who thinks you have to play small. Like, if you're expecting safe or simple, you're in for a surprise.
I love that. The way you drop lines about being an overachiever or putting the O in overachiever, it's playful, but there's a punch to it too. Were you always that confident?
Honestly, not even close. That's what's wild. The confidence you hear is built from years of being underestimated, laughed off, or told to pipe down. So now I walk in and own the room, and if I get called a problem child, that's just fuel for the fire. That kind of pushback shaped me, and now it's part of the story.
Something that really stood out is how you flip the script on what counts as a high. There's this whole section calling out party drugs and fake escapes. What inspired that?
You know, I've seen so many people chasing that next quick fix molly at a rave, whiskey at the after party only to end up emptier than before. What really gets me high is more basic: laughter, movement, creativity. The stuff nobody can sell you.
That line, "my drug is waking up and wanting just a little more," it hits different. It's like you're saying the most radical trip is just actually being present.
Exactly. I'm not trying to preach, but I want people to realize that feeling alive doesn't come in a capsule. It's in your breath, your risks, even the weird beauty of a bad day. The natural high is underrated.
You really don't pull punches when you tackle double standards like that whole bit turning metaphors boys on their head. It's clever, but a little uncomfortable, in a good way.
It's supposed to itch a little. I wanted to give a taste of what it feels like when women get reduced to objects or punchlines. So I flipped it, made it about men trophies, portfolios, even emotional variability as a rating. When you reverse the lens, it's suddenly obvious how weird and hollow it is.
What's wild is, we all know those tropes, but hearing them thrown back with that much edge really makes you stop and think.
I hope so. Sometimes the only way to break through the noise is to make it just uncomfortable enough to get under the skin. If you squirm a little, that's the point. It means it's working.
Switching gears, let's talk about the story behind that dog in a burning house meme. Your take on Duke the real dog was heart-wrenching. Why go so deep with it?
Because we meme our pain so much, we forget there's a story underneath. Duke wasn't just a mood, he was a real dog, loyal to a fault, staying calm in chaos because that's all he knew. That image became a symbol for how we sit in discomfort, telling ourselves this is fine rather than facing the fire.
It's so much heavier than the internet joke suggests. When you frame it as trust being the kindling, it's kind of devastating and honest.
That's real life, though. We get taught to accept the burn instead of choosing to run or rebuild. I wanted to give Duke a proper tribute, and maybe remind us all to answer the alarm instead of just sitting in the smoke.
Jumping back to the present, one thing you hammer home is autonomy. Whether it's about safe sex, owning your no, or protecting your energy, it's like a recurring theme of real freedom.
Absolutely, but not in the sanitized way people expect. For me, knowing my boundaries, whether it's with my body, my time, or my vibe, is the real revolution. It's not about being hard or untouchable, but about building a space where I call the shots and stay safe, physically and emotionally.
I love how you make it clear that saying no isn't a weakness. It's actually the strongest move. That line, "my no is a KO," stuck with me.
Saying no is the foundation of any real yes. It's the empty space you fill with your real self. Nobody told me that growing up, so I make sure to shout it now. And if I've got to wrap it in a bass line so people hear it, even better.
Before we wrap up, I want to dig into this idea you bring up about comebacks. Not the Hollywood, fireworks kind, but quiet, patient, everyday victories. Where did that perspective come from?
That's lived experience. I used to think big wins would save me, but honestly, the real comeback is dragging yourself out of bed, making a meal, calling your person when you're down. It's unglamorous, but it's survival, and sometimes that's more impressive than any stage moment.
It's refreshing to hear that. You're showing that healing and strength aren't always loud or visible, and that's okay.
Totally. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is sit with the discomfort, breathe, and let yourself rest. There's a different kind of power in stillness, the kind that keeps you going when the spotlight's off.
You know, every time I walk into one of those government offices, I feel like I'm stepping into a surreal play. All the endless forms, the numbered tickets, and that strange hush as people wait their turn. It's almost like a dance choreographed decades ago.
Totally, and I always get this sense that the system isn't actually designed for people but for itself. Like, when you're handed a brick of processed cheese or a stack of paperwork, it's not about nutrition or help, it's about checking a box and moving you along the yellow-tiled conveyor belt.
Exactly. It's almost as if the food, and even the help, is secondary to the ritual itself. The real meal is learning to swallow your pride and wait your turn while the clock just ticks away.
And then there's the people behind the glass, those expressions like stagnant ponds. You can almost feel the weight of all the years of rules and manuals stacked up between you. Makes you wonder if anyone's really seen as a person in that line.
That's actually what gets me the most. It's like you become a number, a blip, maybe even a potential mistake just waiting to happen. And the longer you wait, the smaller you feel.
Yeah, you end up whispering, making yourself into this grateful ghost, just hoping to slip through unnoticed. It's survival on a whole different level.
Funny enough, even when you leave those welfare lines and step into an office job, it's not like the wildness goes away. If anything, it just puts on a tie.
That's such a good way to put it. I've definitely felt that tension, like my body still wants to scream or run out the door during another mind-numbing meeting. But instead, I'm supposed to sit quietly, nodding along with the PowerPoint slides.
There's this sense that underneath all the polite small talk and button-down shirts, everyone's got some ancient lizard brain part of themselves just waiting to break free.
Completely. And sometimes it comes out in weird ways, like the subtle power moves at the water cooler or the way everyone laughs too loudly at a boss's joke, even if it's not funny. It's a jungle in there, just with better lighting.
And we act like language and etiquette have tamed us. But really, it just gave the inner beast new words to use. Bad idea, honestly. That actually reminds me of how we try to find connection even in the most controlled, sterile spaces like that whole Petri dish love story. It's oddly relatable, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. The idea of two people meeting in a lab, turning their relationship into an experiment, tracking each other's moods and reactions like growth in a dish, it's so clinical, but also so desperate for real intimacy.
And all the precautions. Gloves on, trying to keep things clean, but also terrified of what might grow if you actually let your guard down. It's like the fear of mess is stronger than the hope for connection.
Right, and in the end, nothing survives except the memory of what might have happened. The experiment's over and the dish is empty. That emptiness really hits hard, the idea that sometimes being too careful means nothing ever really lives.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. It's almost a warning against over-controlling life. Sometimes, the best stuff comes from a little chaos. Speaking of chaos, have you noticed how our media kind of feeds on it? It's like breakfast these days isn't just eggs and toast. It's a sugary spread of panic and outrage, right on top of your morning scroll.
What gets me is how everything's packaged for easy consumption outrage turned into a sweet, sticky narrative. You eat it up before you even realize it's making you sick.
Exactly. And the more you click, the more it feeds you. It's tailored to your darkest cravings, making you feel full of facts, but totally disconnected from what's actually happening outside your window.
You end up bloated with knowledge, but starved for real understanding. And the scariest part? The algorithm knows exactly what flavor of doom you'll come back for tomorrow.
It's like being stuck in an all-you-can-eat buffet of absurdity, and somehow you leave hungrier than when you started. After all that, it's wild to think that the real work happens way down in the dirt, at rock bottom where everything falls apart and starts again.
There's something weirdly peaceful about that. isn't there? When you finally let everything collapse, you become compost nutrients for something new, even if what grows next doesn't look like you at all.
It's almost hopeful, in a strange way, letting go of the old story, the old self, so that something else can use the pieces to build a future you'll never see. It's surrender, but it's also a kind of quiet power.
And when the first shoots start to rise, there's this undeniable sense of renewal. Maybe you come back as a mushroom, a weed, a flower. It doesn't really matter. What matters is you offered something back to the world, even if it's small or a little bit weird.
Yeah, it's like breaking down isn't the end. It's the start of something completely new. I think that's the real lesson in all this chaos and heat. Transformation only happens when you finally let go and let yourself change. So, let's paint a picture. Imagine standing at the top of your own kingdom, a city lit up like scattered jewels below you. It's gorgeous, but I always wonder, does that view come with a sense of power, or does it ever feel isolating?
Funny you say that, because it's both. One minute you're convinced you're soaring above it all, untouchable, like in those rare moments where the world feels small. But then, suddenly, you realize you're actually locked in like Rapunzel in a penthouse tower, surrounded by all this supposed luxury that starts to feel more like a museum than a home.
It's wild how success can turn into its own kind of glass box. All the trophies, the achievements, they look impressive, but there's this silence that settles in when nobody's watching. Kind of lonely, isn't it?
Exactly, and that silence can be deafening. I used to crave the next fight, the next challenge. Now, sometimes it feels like I'm just drifting, vacuuming quiet in $1 million club, missing the edge I had when I was hungry and uncertain. There's almost a nostalgia for the chaos.
That actually reminds me, so many artists talk about missing the adrenaline, the tornado of ambition, even after they've made it. Why do you think that craving for disorder sticks around?
It's like my body remembers the rush, the cortisol, the feeling of being alive inside the storm. Even after the chaos fades, you get this phantom limb, always reaching for that old fight. Logically, I know peace is healthier, but emotionally, I sometimes scroll through old arguments just to feel that spark again.
It's almost like we get addicted to our own struggle. When things finally calm down, that quiet can feel so strange, almost wrong, right?
Totally. Sometimes it feels like being diagnosed with peacefulness, a terminal condition. I catch myself wanting a relapse, just for a taste of that old fire. It's bizarre, but it's real.
Shifting gears a bit. Let's talk about the pressure to fit a brand. You get offered the pill for the peace, but it doesn't always fit that missing piece inside, does it?
Not even close. The world hands you this smooth white circle and tells you it'll fill the hole. But the hole is shaped like a knuckle, like a microphone, like the noise and adrenaline of being on the edge. The brand wants a neat package, but the real stuff is messy and loud.
And then you've got the outside world fans, critics who flip their opinion as soon as you succeed. People who used to hate are suddenly your biggest supporters, trying to curate your struggle for their own narrative.
Right. It's almost theatrical. They sell your old pain as vintage, turn your journey into a product. The applause comes from the same hands that once typed hate. It's bizarre, like you're being recast in a movie you didn't even write a part for.
That's such a tangled web. And yet, despite all that, you've chosen to lean into the quieter moments. The porch swings, the basil in the window, the Sundays with no headlines. Was that a conscious rebellion against the industry's demand for drama?
Absolutely. I got tired of being the poster child for crisis. There's so much pressure to stay inside the box, always edgy, always bold. But honestly, learning how to just be, to exist without the noise, has been the real act of defiance. The industry calls it a downer, but it's actually freedom.
It's almost revolutionary, right? To say that peace and slowness are enough. That the real story is in the quiet, the slow growth, the daily rituals, even the boring stuff that makes you feel human again.
Exactly, letting the silence become a language, instead of something to run from. After years of roaring, I'm learning how to speak softly, and there's so much power in that.
What strikes me is how you frame this journey, not as putting out your old fire, but building a better, steadier flame. Can you talk about that transformation?
Sure. I used to think I needed to burn bright and fast, to be a human firework, but all that did was turn me to ashes. Now, I'm trying to build a temple on that same ground, using patience, forgiveness, even the mistakes as cornerstones. Not a fortress to hide in, but a space with windows and open doors.
That's beautiful. It's like you're saying the real strength isn't in the armor or the battle, but in the space you create for yourself and others. The steady burn keeps you warm, but also invites people in.
Exactly, because you can't live in a fortress, you can only die in one. The real victory is building a life that lets the light in, even during storms. That's the legacy I want to leave. Not a monument to my pain, but a living, breathing home for hope.
Let's pivot a bit. The digital age adds a whole new layer where your story, your face, even your fury gets turned into content, monetized and optimized. How do you protect your humanity in that environment?
It's a constant battle. The algorithms don't care about my sleepless nights or the scar on my knee from when I was 7. They want a vibe, not the messy truth. So I draw boundaries. I keep parts of myself offline, my fingerprints, the crack in my voice, because that's my life, not theirs to commodify.
And there's that relentless pressure to keep feeding the beast, to turn every moment into potential content. How do you resist that urge to be on all the time?
Honestly, I ration my attention. I focus on what I can touch, showing up for friends, planting seeds. I remind myself I don't have to hold the whole ocean. I just have to swim my own lane and toss a rope to someone nearby. That's enough.
Okay, last thing, let's talk about legacy. When younger artists reach out, wanting your help or even your platform, how do you decide what to give?
That's tough, because I remember being in their shoes. I'll pass along the chord shapes, the truth, even a shout out, but I can't give them my scars or pay their dues for them. Everyone has to build their own fire from their own spark. That's what makes it real.
You're saying the torch isn't fame or handouts, it's the work, the grit, and the willingness to grow. It's courage to be terrible before you're good. That's a much tougher, but more honest gift.
Exactly. The torch is the callus on your finger, the empty Tuesday night show, the boring emails, the courage to persist. I'll always open my door, but your foundation has to be your own. That's how the light actually gets in.
Let's bring it full circle. After all these storms, internal and external, you've found a peace that's not about avoiding chaos, but letting it shape you. How does that feel now?
It's strange and wonderful. Peace isn't the absence of storms, it's the fertile ground where rain and drought both teach you something. I'm learning to be both the calm and the storm, to value the slow, steady growth as much as the wild leaps. That's where the real music is for me now.
That's a powerful message, being both the drought and the rain, the solace and the pain. Not running from the noise, but using it to build something gentler, more lasting.
Exactly. The journey isn't about being unbreakable, it's about being repaired and letting the light in through those cracks. That's the story I want to leave behind. Not a myth, but a lived, imperfect hope.
You know, there's something about the phrase "step right up" that makes me think of old carnivals, all noise and neon. But in this piece, it's not just a call to see a show, it's more like an invitation to see yourself, flaws, scars, and all.
It's totally that vibe, isn't it? Like the midway of life where being a misfit is the price of admission. Suddenly, every quirk you tried to hide gets to shine under the spotlight. That line about raise your freak flag higher really sticks with me.
Definitely. It's almost celebratory, like saying, come as you are, especially if you don't fit in. I love how it flips the usual carnival idea. It's not about hiding behind a mask, but letting the real stuff glow.
And there's something freeing about that, right? Even the wrong notes in the orchestra ring like bells, so even the imperfections become music. It's turning what makes us odd into what makes us special. Makes me wish the world felt more like that midway, honestly.
Funny enough, right after that, The text takes a sharp turn, talks about the picket fence prison and the blueprint we're handed. Like, the American dream as a recipe for a stale soul.
It's such a powerful contrast. The carnival invites you to celebrate your edges, but the world wants you to color inside the lines, keep your voice low, fit in. It's like there's this longing to break out, to make your mark in red instead of following the template.
The imagery of smashing the case and painting outside the lines really lands for me. There's a raw honesty to it, like, conforming isn't just dull, it's actively suffocating. Makes me think of all the expectations we quietly rebel against.
Right, and that rebellion doesn't come easy, sometimes it's loud, sometimes messy. But the alternative is being stuck on that forever tab, just running up debts to yourself that never come due. It's so relatable, even if you don't quite live that way.
That actually reminds me how much this piece leans into family-haunted trees, roots in the mud, the dusty family portrait with shotgun holes. The sense that family is both legacy and wound.
Yeah, I felt that too. The family's painted with cracks, gold in the scars, but also a sort of silent ache grudges passed like gravy. It's both hilarious and heartbreaking, how the holidays become battlegrounds for old pain.
And all the secrets everyone pretends not to see, right? Like, the shotgun shell in the attic nobody talks about. It's so real, the pressure to play your part. Keep things looking normal, even if it's all stitched together with twitchy smiles.
Absolutely. It's that family performance polishing the silver, hiding the tarnish, but the rust still sings in the walls. Makes me think about how much of our own story we inherit and how much we rewrite.
Speaking of rewriting, what about that whole section on tattoos? The way skin becomes a cemetery of could-have beens. Every mark a story you didn't dare say out loud.
What struck me most is how tattoos become both a shield and a confession. Like, you literally pay for the pain, then wear your failures or memories for everyone to see. It's honesty, but a kind that's almost protective.
Right. And sometimes the story's too raw to tell in words, so you hand it to an artist. Then you can point to the ink and say, "That's why," without having to explain. There's a weird comfort in that. Like proof you lived, even if it hurt.
And the idea of regrets that don't outlast the alcohol, we all have some version of that, don't we? Things you can't wash off, but eventually you see the beauty in the mess.
Now, shifting gears a bit, the whole video game metaphor really grabbed me. The idea that after all the side quests, the final boss is just you, your own reflection.
There's something both funny and bleak about that, right? You spend so much time dodging straw man villains, only to realize the real fight is against your own self-doubt. The armor made of shoulds that line made me laugh and wince at the same time.
Exactly. And the idea that you're both the prison keeper and the mouse trapped inside. It's almost comforting, though. If you built the dungeon, maybe you can tear it down too.
Maybe that's the secret magic, realizing the only enemy left is the one you can actually face, and that fighting your own shadow, as scary as it is the only battle that ever really counts. That's a wild kind of hope.
So after all that carnivals, rebellion, haunted houses, final bosses, what do we make of the ending? The show's over, but the real magic seems to be in moving on, heading to the next town, the next field.
It almost feels bittersweet, doesn't it? The promise that chaos is always heading somewhere else, that you can drive away from yourself, even if just for a while. But maybe that's the only magic there ever was. The belief that you're not stuck, even when you feel you are.
And the show goes on, scars and all. I love that. No neat curtain drop, just unresolved chords trailing off into the next story. Maybe that's the best we can hope for. Keep moving, keep believing in the next act.
Yeah, and maybe that's what makes it all beautiful. None of the mess is wasted. It all becomes music, even the wrong notes. So, until next time, step right up to yourself, freak flag and all.
So, let's start at the beginning. There's this striking image, you dragging your old skin or self to the trash, hitting delete with all your might. What did that metaphor mean for you? Why frame your transformation in such stark digital terms?
It's almost funny how natural it felt. That old version of me was corrupted like a glitched out file you try to open at 2 a.m. and just gets static. The act of emptying the trash was both terrifying and liberating, like finally letting go of doubts that kept freezing my system. For me, digital language captured just how absolute and jarring change can feel.
I get that. There's this mix of fear and power in emptying the trash, right? Because once it's gone, there's no undo. Did you actually feel lighter afterward, or did some of that glitch linger in your mind?
A little of both, honestly. I felt relief like my hard drive had some breathing room for the first time in forever. But those ghost files, the old doubts, sometimes tried to sneak back in. It's like even after you empty the trash, your system remembers.
That sense of starting fresh leads right into this next part. A white, empty window, almost blinding. You describe your soul's syntax being rewritten in a cold, sharp language. What does it feel like to code your own identity from scratch?
It was exhilarating and a little alien. I've always loved the idea of a clean install, no bloatware, no legacy bugs. But when you're the one writing the code, every decision feels huge. There's freedom, but also this awareness that you're choosing your own parameters, maybe for the first time.
That kind of autonomy can be overwhelming, can't it? Like, now it's up to you to define every variable of who you are. Did you ever worry about making the wrong choices? Or was the blankness itself a comfort?
The blankness was comforting, weirdly. It meant nothing was set I could experiment, iterate, even crash and reboot without guilt. There's a loneliness in being your own architect, but also a wild optimism. It's the promise that your next version can be anything.
Something you do that I love is reimagining connection, not as touch, but as transfer. You talk about empathy as an API and love as encrypted data. Do you find digital metaphors make intimacy feel safer, or does it risk making things colder?
That's such a good question. For me, digital metaphors let me reframe intimacy less about messy chaos, more about clean signals, precise feedback. But yeah, sometimes it can feel cold. There's an elegance to a private network, but you can't cuddle up to code. The real warmth comes in those bugs, the glitches of real feeling.
I totally relate to that. My favorite lines are about wanting bug reports instead of bodies debugging loneliness together. Was that your way of saying vulnerability can be more honest than romance?
Absolutely. Give me your crash logs, your fatal errors. That's more intimate than any scripted love story. When someone lets you see their error messages, there's room for real repair instead of just glossy surfaces.
Switching gears a bit, let's talk about digital sadness. You wrote, 404 feelings not found. That's heartbreak as a system error. How does it feel to process emotion as if you're debugging a malfunction?
It can be a weird comfort to think of feelings that way. Like, sadness isn't a flaw, it's just a missing file. I'll try to recover. But sometimes the translation fails. The ache is real, but all you get is corrupted metadata or pixelated memories. It's bittersweet, trying to feel through the screen.
There's something bittersweet about that. Yeah. You mentioned missing the beautiful mess of analog emotion. Does all this digital clarity ever feel like a loss?
Definitely. Clarity can sterilize things. Sometimes you miss the static, the random, the unpredictable, the ugly, beautiful noise of being human. But I think I needed that sterile phase before I could let the glitches back in and see them as part of the music.
What really struck me was how you turn anxiety, morning dread, panic into music. You sequence your own heartbeat as a kick drum, breath as a snare. Did that creative framing help you manage the chaos?
Honestly, it was vital. Turning those terrifying spirals into a beat made them feel less overwhelming, more like something I could dance with instead of fight. If panic is a brutal rhythm, at least I'm the composer now. It's not a malfunction, it's my raw design.
I love that. There's a kind of power in claiming your symptoms as your soundtrack. Did making music out of anxiety change how you experienced it day to day?
Yeah, it gave me agency. Instead of dreading the chest tightness, I'd listen for the tempo. I'd ground myself, remix the noise into something purposeful. Sometimes that's all you can do, turn the signal and noise into a song you can live with.
That reminds me toward the end. You talk about not being a legacy system, but a fresh install. There's a declaration of boundaries, encryption, and finally, this exception made for a cat Jinx. Why is softness the core, not the vulnerability?
Because true safety isn't in perfect code, it's in knowing you have a root process, something soft, alive, that purrs even when your system crashes. For me, letting Jinx in meant proving to myself that not all softness will be exploited. Some softness keeps you operational, keeps your soul from overheating.
There's something beautiful in that opening one firewall for real connection, even while holding boundaries everywhere else. Did that change how you saw yourself?
Absolutely. It let me see that resilience isn't just about shielding yourself. Sometimes, survival means letting in just enough warmth to keep your system running. That's the upgrade I never knew I needed.
So as you power down and reboot, there's this line: I don't need to be a guard. I just need to be a creature who can purr in the dark. Do you feel you've come full circle from digital armor to something wild and soft?
I do. It's kind of a paradox. I built firewalls thinking they'd keep me alive, but real survival was always about letting some vulnerability sneak through. I'm not just code, I'm heat, mess, and memory. Maybe I was always the user and the system, the signal and the noise.
That's a powerful note to end on. Do you think this digital mythology you've built is still evolving? Or have you found your final form?
I think it'll always evolve. As long as there are glitches, updates, and unexpected pings in the night, there's more story to write. The only constant is the reboot, and the hope that each version gets a little closer to true connection, inside and out.